Hello everyone. Today I'm sharing 5 spine-chilling horror stories full of mystery and terror. Each one will send shivers down your spine, especially the last story. Make sure you stick around for that. If you enjoy creepy content, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss a new video. Now let's get into the first story. 1. The Phantom Passenger. It was a cold Halloween night when I received a ride request from an isolated area on the outskirts. It was a place where few people ever passed by, and I didn't think much of it, just another job. When I arrived, I saw a woman in a long coat, her face obscured by a hood. She only muttered a few words. "Take me to..." I couldn't quite catch the destination, but I figured I'd drive ahead and ask later. At first, everything seemed normal, but soon, the temperature inside the car dropped, unnaturally cold, like icy wind seeping in, even though all the windows were closed. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, that's when I noticed it. The woman sat still, staring out the window, but she cast no shadow. The streetlights flashed past the car, but there was no shadow where she sat. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was just tired, but things only got worse. The dashboard clock stopped ticking, my phone lost signal, and the air felt suffocatingly thick. At one point, unable to bear the silence any longer, I turned around to ask for her name. But when I looked back, the seat was empty. The car abruptly stalled in the middle of the deserted road. I switched on the interior light, scrambled to check. But the woman was gone. Only a faint trace of water, like wet footprints, remained on the back seat. Panicking, I managed to start the car and sped off. Later, when I told a friend about the incident, they calmly informed me that I might have picked up the woman of Route 13. She had died in a car accident years ago, and every Halloween, her restless spirit still searches for one last ride. 2. The Mysterious Letter. It was Halloween night, and I was waiting to finally uncover the identity of the mysterious person who had been sending me unsettling letters every year on this exact night. No sender, no return address. Just the same shaky handwriting with cryptic warnings. This year, I was determined to catch them. Around 11 p.m., as expected, there was a knock at the door. I opened it immediately, but no one was there. Instead, another letter lay on the doorstep, and this time, the message made my blood run cold. "Do not open the back door after midnight. He will come." A creeping sense of dread settled in. I could hear faint sounds coming from the back door, like someone fiddling with the lock. My heart pounded. I remembered the letter's warning, but curiosity got the better of me. Against my better judgment, I approached and opened the door. There, standing in the shadow of the night, was a man. He was motionless, faceless in the darkness, just a silhouette barely visible under the dim light. I slammed the door shut, breathless, the fear clutching at my chest. The next morning, after speaking to some neighbors, I learned that others who had lived here before had also received these letters, and after they opened their doors at midnight, they vanished without a trace. I knew I had narrowly escaped something horrific, but the truth is, he's still out there, waiting for me to open that door once again. 3. The Haunted Melody. This Halloween, I had moved into an old house on a quiet hill. People whispered stories about it, saying that on Halloween night, ghostly music would echo from the basement. But I didn't pay any attention to those rumors. I needed peace and space to work on my music. That evening, as I was playing the piano, I began to hear something strange, a melody. but it wasn't coming from my piano. The sound was faint but unmistakable, coming from below, deep within the house. It was an old song, one I had never heard before. At first I thought it was my imagination, but the music persisted. I decided to investigate. The basement was colder than I expected, the air thick with dust and shadows. In the far corner of the room sat a decrepit old piano, its keys cracked and its surface covered in cobwebs. It was impossible for this piano to play, yet the melody continued. I stumbled upon an old diary on the floor. It belonged to a man who had once lived here, a pianist who died mysteriously in this very house. The music, it was his. And as I turned to leave, I realized with horror that my own hands were no longer my own. My fingers began to move, playing his final song. His spirit had taken over, forcing me to complete the music he had left unfinished. The Lantern's Curse. Every year on Halloween, a strange lantern would appear in front of my house. No one ever knew where it came from, but by nightfall, it would light up on its own, casting a cold, eerie glow. I had grown used to it, but this year something was different. I decided to bring the lantern inside and keep it. As night fell, the lantern blazed even brighter than usual, filling the room with a strange light. A pungent smell wafted from it, and the air in my house grew unnaturally cold. I felt a presence lurking in the shadows, watching me from every corner. When I examined the lantern more closely, I noticed strange markings carved into its surface. They weren't just decorative, they were ancient symbols tied to an old dark ritual. My heart raced as I tried to extinguish the flame, but it only grew stronger, and then, within the flickering light, a shadow of a man began to form. The house was plunged into darkness, and the sound of deep, labored breathing filled the air. I knew then. There was no escaping. The lantern had chosen me, and whatever was inside it had now entered my home. 5. The final game. It was Halloween night when my friends and I decided to play a dangerous game, one we had only heard about in hushed whispers. The summoning game. We needed a mirror and candles. If we did it right, we were supposed to summon a mysterious entity. None of us believed it would actually work. But we were curious. The room was pitch dark, lit only by the flickering candlelight. As we stared into the mirror, I noticed something wrong. My reflection was off. Slowly, it began to change. The face in the mirror wasn't mine anymore. It was someone else's. Dark, hollow eyes stared back at me, glowing red in the dim light. Before I could react, the candles blew out all at once and a piercing scream erupted from across the room. I fumbled in the darkness, but one by one my friends disappeared. The candles were snuffed out, and the room grew colder and more suffocating. I realized too late that we hadn't summoned a mere spirit. We had unleashed something far worse, something that was hunting us one by one. In the end, I was the only one left. When I dared to look into the mirror again, I saw all my friends standing behind me, their faces twisted and monstrous. I knew then it was my turn.